Okay, so basically black goes for a5 because he knows that whenever white pushes this pawn to d5, then white can bring this knight to b4, which will be a very great outpost for this knight. So that's why after seeing this, here Kasparov brings back his bishop to d2. But guys, now you might be shocked that however black can go for the move knight to b4. And suppose if bishop takes b4, then simply a takes b4. But what if queen takes b4 attacking this bishop? And since this bishop is attacked, so black can defend this either with this rook or with this queen. But defending this by the queen might be the better option because first of all we need someone who can keep an eye over this a file, and secondly black can push c5 in future, which in which this d6 pawn is supported by this queen. And the most importantly, if white somehow attacks this bishop on f6 in the future, then this bishop can go back to d8 and can be rerouted to a better square. And here white cannot push the move e5. Yeah, this attacks this bishop, but he forgets that now black can actually capture this knight on f3 by bishop takes f3. And after queen takes b8, simply rook takes b8, g takes f3, d takes e5, d takes e5, and finally bishop to g5. And now look at these scatter points of white. By this you can clearly see that this position will be slightly better for black. Okay, so in the actual game, after bishop to d2, here Karpov decides to bring his rook to e8. Okay, so here some of you might be thinking of capturing this pawn by this move, which is bishop takes b2, and yes, black can do this, but after that white can actually go for rook to a2, attacking this bishop. And suppose after this bishop goes back to f6, now comes knight to b5, and now you can see white will prepare this attack in the future, which can create some threat to black. But this can be holdable by black if black plays very carefully. Okay, so in the actual game, after queen to c4, so here he decides to bring this queen to c8. And now it's better for black to bring this queen to b7 so that he can attack this b2 pawn. But instead he goes for c5, which is an inaccuracy. Yes, this is attacking this knight, but he forgets that here Kasparov can simply en passant. And now in this position, here white have multiple options like capturing this bishop, or maybe white can slide his king, getting out from any danger, or he can also double his rook. But instead, he decides to bring his rook to b2 so that he can place this to c2, which targets this queen. Okay, so here it's better for black to bring this rook to c4 so that he can attack this queen. But instead, he brings his queen to e7, preparing for d5, and the best option for white is to bring this knight to e3 so that he can go for d5, so that he can go for this d5 square in the future, which attacks this queen. But instead, he places his queen to f2. Maybe he wants to go for knight to d4, which attacks this rook. But in this position, black can go for this amazing move d5. And suppose if white captured on d5, then this position will be this position will be losing for white because of this move rook to e2, attacking this queen as well as this knight. And after suppose queen goes to d4, then simply rook takes c2, and now you can see white will be a piece down. Okay, so after queen to f2, here Karpov missed this amazing move d5, and instead he goes for rook to g6 so that he can create some pressure over this g file. But guys, here instead of f4, in this position, Kasparov must consider this move rook to c1 so that he can double his rook on 7th rank, and that will be a completely winning position for white. but instead he brings his rook to e6. And now you can see black is targeting this pawn on e4, but instead here black must consider this move bishop to c6, which attacks this active knight. Okay, so since this e4 pawn is now attacked, so Kasparov defends it by this move queen to d4. And since black is targeting this knight, some of you might be thinking of knight to c7, which will fork this queen and this rook. But after that, black will firstly take on e4, which will attack this queen. So that's why instead Kasparov finds the best move. He placed his queen to d3 first, getting out from this danger of rook takes e4 after this move knight to c7. And here, Karpov also slides his queen, getting out from this move knight to c7 fork. And now this move rook to c7 is completely winning for white, but instead Kasparov brings his queen to f5, which is targeting this f7 pawn. And in this position, here Kasparov sacrificed his queen by queen takes d8. This is because after queen takes d8, now comes rook to c8, and by this you can see white will successfully grab this queen. Okay, so since this f pawn is attacked by this rook, so here Kasparov firstly bring his rook to c4, which defends this pawn. And in this position, the final move by Kasparov is rook to c4, and in this position, Anatoly Karpov resigned, because clearly you can see now no one can stop this pawn from promotion, because this c file is completely acquired by this rook, in which this king cannot enter. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.